Atletico Madrid, though, of course, not the only Madrid-based side to drop points this weekend. It was all fanfare, literally all fire for Mallorca against Real Madrid. But in the end, Carlo Ancelotti's side were second best for a lot of the game, and it would finish Mallorca 1, Real Madrid 1. Right then, Ali, hold my hand through these. I haven't seen these yet.
Okay.
These are the front page of the newspapers in Spain. Pinchazo, Bajonazo, Chasco Blanco.
Well, pinchazo is a very Spanish expression, and they just basically you're dropping points, and it's what a bullfighter does on a bull and actually doesn't put the sword all the way in.
Oh, I see.
See, that's what a pinchazo is.
Nice one. Bajonazo and Chasco de Blanco, of course, disappointment right across the board. Alex, I want to start with you because, this is what Carlo Ancelotti had to say after the game. The defending wasn't good. It was hard for us to win the ball after losing it. That's where we have to improve. When I talk about defending, we're talking about attitude and collective commitment. The team was too open. We have to focus more, as we usually do, with more concentration, be more together. People can think it's a problem of the forwards, but when the forwards press, the midfielders don't help and the defenders stay back. It isn't one or the other.
Really good translation, Dan.
Thank you very much. I did that off the top of my head. Alex, I want to start with you before we get the boys who haven't had their 2 pennies yet on what happened yesterday. What has been the reaction in Madrid overall to this, which was a massive, let's face it, anticlimax? Alex?
Alex is frozen.
Alex is frozen or is very good at statues.
Very serious, very serious.
Where did it go wrong? And will it go wrong like this in the future?
Look, the build-up to this game and to the first appearance of Mbappe in La Liga was out of control. And rightfully so.
That was us.
Yes, we're part of the problem.
But rightly so, surely.
No,
after that second half against Atalanta, we all went, wow.
Well, Dan, I just said, but rightly so.
Right.
Rightfully so. And yet, you saw moments and in which they got, whenever they were actually combining, there was a sequence around the 30th minute or so in the first half in which they combined all 4 of the players. The ball ends up falling to Vini Jr., who tries to flick the ball over the top to Mbappe, and the goalkeeper gets a last-second touch on it, and it isn't a goal. That ball goes in, we're having a different conversation. But beyond that, I actually think that this is actually good news for Real Madrid. And this is good news for Carlo Ancelotti, that he can actually use this. He can use this, and it's good that it's happening now in the earlier part of the season where he can go to his players and say, hey, we can have anybody that you want on the field. But unless we bring that attitude that he mentioned, unless we close the ball down in certain areas, unless we stop turning the ball over in bad areas, unless we care about the possession of the ball, we are going to lose games. And yesterday's match is a game that in the end Real Madrid were hanging on. If you were going to pick a winner, you would say Mallorca towards the end were the ones that were having the chances and not Real Madrid. And so I actually think that this is a good thing for Carlo Ancelotti to hang on to and go to the training ground, go to the training field and say, listen, this has to be different. The intensity has to be different. And when I talk about intensity, it isn't just about closing people down and winning challenges. It's also offensively. In moments in which they had opportunities to get out in transition and run at Mallorca, what did they do? They slowed it down. So why is Mbappe slowing it down? Why is Vini Jr. slowing it down? Why is Bellingham slowing it down? Why is Rodrigo slowing it down? When actually you can use that speed. And you saw that too many times. Too many turnovers in the attacking half as well. I think the intensity wasn't just defensively, there was a lack of intensity and purpose offensively as well.
I like what Ancelotti said. I agree with Ali. This is probably going to be a good thing in the long run. And there's not a game like football to bring you back down to earth.
Right.
You know, and as you said a couple of seconds ago, we were all gushing over what happened in the Super Cup and the whole thing. But as I said, football brings you back down to earth, and that's exactly what happened. And again, it brings you back to reality. And the reality is that as much potential and as much as we want to see that 4 going forward with Rodrigo and Vini and Mbappe and Bellingham, they've only played together once before yesterday. So, I mean, come on, it's football. We know it just doesn't happen automatically. Things do take time. Unfortunately, everybody, probably including them, all got carried away with Mbappe performance in the Super Cup and the whole four of them playing together so well, we should have understood that it's just not quite ready to be as fantastic as we think it can be.
I have to say, Alex, very measured analysis here from the boys, very much looking at the big picture. I'm sure that's exactly what the Madrid media have been doing as well.
Yeah, the Madrid media famous for their measured takes and their calm. No, not quite. Of course, people aren't best pleased with this. But like I was just saying, I think this was almost inevitable at some point. This was always going to happen. I guess it might not have happened first league game of the season, but the issue with this team was always going to be about balance and how do you balance a team that's got Mbappe, Vini, Rodrigo, Bellingham, and spare a thought for the Real Madrid midfield. The two-man midfield of Fede Valverde and Tchouaméni are having to do so much work. And Bellingham was caught on camera in the tunnel at half-time as well, saying to the front three, look, guys, you'd better finish off some of these chances because it's a lot of work back there. So this was always going to be the issue, I think, how to find that balance in this team. And can you do it with this front four? Or does one have to drop out? Does Rodrigo, for example, have to drop out and you get an extra midfielder in there, some extra legs? Or do the front players simply have to work a lot harder? We've seen last season, it was the success of Real Madrid's season last season. The whole team working together. Ancelotti talked about it again and again. He used that phrase, collective commitment. That was his big plus last season. Has that collective commitment been affected, and has it been knocked off balance? And how much work has Ancelotti got to do to sort of get it back on course? It's early days, like the guys are saying. It's not a bad thing that it happens now. It happens early, and you've got so much more time then to address that balance.
Ian, obviously you were at the game, you were commentating the match in Mallorca. What I thought was striking, when Enrique scored, there wasn't really that much of a reaction from Real Madrid between then and the final whistle.
No, and as you said, it looked like Mallorca were going to go on and win the game. I think when they meet the bigger teams later on in Europe this season, they're going to have to think very carefully about what the lineup has to be, because it didn't look right with just Tchouaméni and Valverde in that central area, Bellingham floating a little bit, and then the other three of them. So there's a lot of thinking, I think, for Ancelotti to do, but I think it makes it an intriguing La Liga race. Maybe they're not going to run away with it.
Alex brought up that clip that we saw at half-time of Bellingham talking to Vinicius Jr., to Mbappe and to Rodrigo, saying, look, if you get the ball, you need to hold it up. You need to do something with it, because you lose it. We're running back and forth here. Yep. How do you deal with that as a manager? Is that something, obviously, Ancelotti has to address? Players speaking like that to each other, is that a problem? That's necessary?
It's only a problem if what he's saying is wrong.
Right.
If what he's saying is correct, then it's not a problem. That's what you want, generally, from your senior players. But Bellingham's a little different. He falls into a different category.
Yes.
But bottom line is, if it's correct, and I think what he was saying was correct, then as a coach, you want that.
You love it, actually.
Yeah, right.
Not only do you want it, you love it because it saves you having to do it to Vini Jr. And I think while he may have been talking to Mbappe and Rodrigo, I think the message is really to Vini. Because Vini, at times yesterday, I'm going to take on defenders because he was engaged with the crowd. Do something with it. Help us out. I'm willing to do the running behind you as long as you're doing your job over there. So if you're a manager, you love that that's taking place within the locker room and among the players.
All the best teams since the game started have all policed themselves in the dressing room and policed themselves on the field.